What's up? This DJ Buster B right here. I'm going to talk about a few tips that you other DJs can probably use. And there's a lot of other videos on YouTube that talk about tips, and it's probably some of the same things I'm going to talk about, but I'm just adding to my page on YouTube. I'm going to start off with one of the main things you should have in your bag or your box or whatever you bring with you, your crate when you go to DJ, is one of the first things is one of these testers right here to test your circuits out. Before I go to any building to plug in, first thing I do when I walk in is I test the outlets to find out if everything is wired correctly. And this is a cheap little tester you can get at Lowe's, maybe like $5, whatever it is. But this thing comes in handy because you don't want to plug into a building that has something backwards. And I had, as an example, this was last year. I had a gig outside at this nice pavilion, real nice outside, and we got there, got ready to plug in. I said, oh, let me plug in, and found it, because the original pavilion that we were going to plug into, they had everything was tested out when I went out there beforehand and tested with this. Everything was good, but the day of the gig, we got moved to another pavilion, which is like maybe 30 yards down. And I go to plug in. This thing came in handy. It showed up. I'm gonna show you what it showed up right here. Let the camera focus. Came in with. Come on, focus. There we go. This one right here, it said hot and ground reverse. When I plugged in, the first light came on and the last light came on. The middle light was off. Right then and there, I knew we had a problem. So I contacted the guys that own the facility and said, look, your power is jacked up at this one pavilion. I'm not going to plug in because I'm not trying to blow my gear and everything. So they actually rolled out a generator, and I plugged into the generator. Everything was all good. But guys, get one of these. Comes in handy. You don't want to plug in your gear or expensive computer gear equipment and you plug in stuff in some crazy outlets, because everybody tries to be an electrician and it don't want to always work out. So get you one of these. Next thing is, you guys already know, is basic multi-purpose screwdriver or a tool kit. I used to carry a tool kit also, but this is one I keep around all the time because a bunch of different tips you can use for unscrewing things if something happens. Another real important thing is a door stop. A lot of you guys probably don't think about it, but when you go to start rolling in your gear and everything, and the door won't stay open, pick you up a couple of these at Walmart. They're like $1 for 3. But I always keep a bunch of these in my box. Work out great. Keep doors open when you're rolling in big speakers. Another thing is a multimeter. I don't know, some of you guys probably don't carry one. I mean, you don't have to carry this Fluke here. This Fluke is like a $500 meter, but I don't carry this one. I carry this little cheap one that I got from Harbor Freight. It's like a $2 meter. It's like $2.99. And this meter right here, basically what you can do is you can test your speakers, you can test fuses, all kind of stuff you can test right there on the scene if something happens. I mean, if you have a problem and you might blow a speaker or something happens or something isn't sounding right, like say you plug in a speaker and your tweeter's working and your bottom is not, plug in. If your speaker says it's supposed to be 4 ohms or 8 ohms, plug in your multimeter. Put it on ohms right there, like set it for like a 20k ohm or a 200 ohm scale. You'll see if you got 4 ohms or if you have 8. If you don't have the ohms, something like that, you got something going on. Something's wrong with your speaker right there. So it comes in handy, even if for fuses too. I mean, a lot of gear has fuses in it. You might pop something, something's not powering on. Put on continuity on your meter. If you have infinity, that means the fuse is blown. But if it has a dead short, if you get continuity tone or something like that, or if you get an ohm reading, the fuse is good. So cheap multimeter comes in handy for your gear. Another thing that the multimeter will come in handy for is your speaker cables. If you have a short or XLR cable, something static in it, or something didn't sound, or if you don't have sound at all and you know your speaker's good, multimeter comes in handy again. Put it on continuity. Just do a continuity check from one end of your speaker cable to the other end. If you got continuity, checks out, you got a good cable. And if you don't, if it has infinity, you might have a short in that cable where something's broken, like one of your pins on your XLR cable or one of your pins on your banana plug or your Speakon or whatever, however you plug in your speakers to your amp. If you have an open circuit, that means you have a bad speaker cable. I always keep spare speaker cables with me also, just in case. I mean, I have multiple rolls of speaker cable I keep, but just in case if something happens, multimeter always comes in handy. And if any of you guys don't know how to use a multimeter, there's plenty of how-to videos on YouTube on how to use a basic multimeter just for your basic testing as far as continuity or ohms if you want to check your ohms in your speaker, like 4 or 8 ohms or something like that. Another thing I always keep in my bag is spare fuses. I got fuses for every piece of gear that has fuses in my case, because some gear don't have fuses, some have just circuit breakers. But like your BB maximizer, EQ, or crossovers that has fuses, buy some spare fuses. I mean, a lot of stores don't carry them, but you could get the fuse rating and get it online. And I always buy like an extra pack of 5 or 10, because fuses, if something pops on the scene, if something happens, anything, a surge spike, even if you do have a power conditioner, fuses can still blow. So if you got a spare fuse set, pop a fuse in, you're good to go. But if you don't know if the fuse is blown, test it with your multimeter. Cheap meter, just put it on continuity, check it. If it's infinity, you got a blown fuse. So that's just some tips that I want to add to my YouTube channel for DJ stuff. So hopefully these tips will help some of you guys out. And practice and enjoy.